This is Franchise Today, brought to you by FRM Solutions, providers of the best-in-class software solutions for franchise relationship management. Franchise Today is your destination for weekly information, conversations, and interviews with accomplished industry leaders, all of whom share best practices for sustainable growth and sensible franchising. Here now, your host, Stan Friedman, to kick off this week's podcast.
Today is Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. I'm Stan Friedman, and this is Franchise Today. Well, we've heard from some pretty accomplished movers and shakers, even some market disruptors over the course of the past several weeks. And this week, you can expect more of the same, as I'm joined in just a few minutes by Stephen Preuss, co-founder and CEO of Paymore Electronics. Along with his partner, Eric Helgesen, these guys have spent the last 20 years putting a whole new face on the business of secondhand stores, creating something of a unique niche in the franchise world, attracting franchisees of restaurant concepts of all things who are finding themselves drawn to this new concept like magnets to steel. More about that in a minute. But first, a quick reminder to stop by the website at franchisetodaypodcast.com and drop some guest suggestions, your thoughts, comments, and while there, please leave a review. It's the best way to keep me dialed in to your pulse, thoughts, and wishes, and helps too to let others learn about the podcast. So, whether you do that at the Franchise Today website or wherever you go to download it, please do it along the way, okay? Okay. So, last week, I had the pleasure of welcoming Profit Keeper by PrimePay Senior Vice President Kyle McEwen as my guest and Profit Keeper as a new sponsor of Franchise Today. In addition to being a weekly sponsor of the podcast, Profit Keeper will also be the title sponsor of our quarterly Rising Stars of Franchising showcases. I'm pretty stoked by this new relationship and feel really privileged to have the ability to help many of you learn more about the power of Profit Keeper and what it does for hundreds of franchisors and thousands of franchisees in terms of identifying actionable data that is presented simply and graphically. Whether you are just emerging on your way to 5, 10, 20, 50 franchisees or more, or already at 100, 200, 500 or more at the enterprise level, driving profit and benchmarking at the unit level is always job one. And Profit Keeper is number one when it comes to the visualization of what is occurring at the unit levels and benchmarking it with clarity for all stakeholders across the enterprise. I'll be sharing much more about Profit Keeper by PrimePay with you in the weeks ahead. Much, much more. But for right now, find them at profitkeeper.com or hit their link from the sponsors page at franchisetodaypodcast.com. A quick timeout right now, and when I return, I'll introduce you to Stephen Preuss, Sr., co-founder and CEO of Paymore Electronics. These guys are a house on fire, and Stephen's here to tell you all about it.
Franchise Today will be right back, but first, a word from our sponsors.
We are all familiar with Vistage, YPO, and EO. Well, now comes Zorforum, a somewhat similar type of executive group, but this one comes with a twist. Zorforum groups are exclusively for franchisors. Imagine a peer group for sharing and networking on a platform built exclusively for franchise executives. Zorforum members are afforded unparalleled access to best practices and some of the brightest minds within the franchising world through regular meetings and a dedicated communications platform. In this post-COVID world, a franchise-specific mastermind or peer group is an endeavor worth making time for. Zorforum groups of 6 to 10 will bring leaders together that are in similar situations, but with exclusivity in terms of their competitive set, so that each can openly help others benefit from their respective knowledge, perspective, and experience with no fear of competitive loss. Network, learn, strategize, and remain motivated along your journey. Join a peer group, not just any peer group. Join the only one designed for emerging franchisors. Join Zorforum. Learn more at zorforum.com. That's www.zorforum.com. In 2011, after 10 years of lessons learned at the School of Hard Knocks, Stephen Preuss and his partner Eric Helgesen launched Paymore Stores and embarked on a transformative journey. Paymore's inception was not merely about business. It was driven too by a powerful vision to fundamentally reshape the landscape of the secondhand electronics market while taking a bold stand against the relentless tide of e-waste engulfing our nation's landfills. Their mission was clear. It was to rescue discarded electronics, breathe new life into them, and then redirect them back into the market, all while minimizing the ever-expanding footprint of electronic waste. They set out to be more than just another electronics store by envisioning themselves as stewards of sustainability and innovation. Fast forward to the present day, and their single company-owned store in Massapequa on New York's Long Island has become the buzzing epicenter for 52 units now open and operating, with hundreds more on the way in the USA, Canada, and the UK. Today, we talk about their thrilling journey as they remain steadfast in their commitment to reshape the second-hand electronics market, combating e-waste one Paymore store at a time. Stephen Preuss, welcome to Franchise Today.
Thank you, Stan. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I think it might be the second time in 15 years that I'm podcasting that I'm actually talking to a Long Islander. There aren't that many franchisors, plenty of franchisees, but I don't think there are that many franchisors on the island. Am I right?
I've only met one or two in my travels as well.
Yeah, I think Josh York is on Long Island, but I don't know too many others.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Well, Stephen, we're going to do what we do every week. We're going to learn a lot about each other, but we're going to start learning about how it is that franchising discovered you, what it was you were doing, and when that was.
Well, the journey for Paymore started actually 2 decades ago, back in 2004. My partner, Eric Helgesen, and I got together at that point in time, and we actually opened up a secondhand store in Long Island in Massapequa Park, New York. And at that point in time, we were taking all different types of products as well. We had a number of different service lines, and we ran that initial business for several years. So from about 2004 to 2009, we did pretty much everything wrong. We did way more wrong than we did right. But during the end of that first tranche of time in kind of 2008, 2009, we had a couple light bulbs go off. We realized that in the secondhand store, and again, we were taking all different types of products, that electronics was our most voluminous item coming through the door. It was our most profitable item coming through the door. And it really drove a lot of the conversations between us and our customers, that they really loved the opportunity to have optionality in the electronic space, not have to go to a retail store like Apple and pay $1,000 for a phone, and go to Best Buy and, trade through gift cards and get caught up in that racket. We were giving optionality for them to come in and buy gently used or pre-owned electronics at a fair price. And they really took to that. And back at that point in time in 2009-10, electronics were really switching from a need to a necessity, right? Everyone had to have a smartphone or an iPad or what have you. So we saw a real kind of green shoot, if you will, that we really wanted to exploit in our secondhand business. My background in the franchisor relationship between myself and my partner, I'm more into business operations, but my partner has a very deep background in technology, software, and coding. So those principles that we really saw at that point in time really fit with his background. The other part or principle that we learned during those first several years of mistakes, but a lot of learning, was that we saw a real need to change the secondhand community as a whole, or secondhand business. It's a highly stigmatized business. If I were to ask you, Stan, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say a secondhand store? I'm sure you would say a pawn shop.
Yep.
98% of the time, that's what it is. And it's highly stigmatized, obviously. It's not a real widely acceptable practice. It's not visited by, all different income classes or part of every day or even, regular shopping patterns for families. It's kind of done in the shadows, not really a high return customer rate. My partner and I, we grew up in Long Island and you know Long Island well, and we were both South Shore boys in Massapequa and Levittown and middle class families. So if there was a really acceptable practice in a secondhand store or item, I know that both myself and Eric's families would probably exploit that on a weekly basis and visit those types of stores. So we took those two things that we've learned over that first several years that we really wanted to dive into optionality in electronic space, in the secondhand space, and also really just blow up and disrupt the secondhand business and bring it into the forefront as an acceptable practice. So we took those two principles. We moved to the town next door in Massapequa, opened up a brand new location, 2011, and we named it Paymore. So we were off and running with kind of the rebrand and repermutation of our initial business. The last part of the puzzle and a big part of our business is our technology. So we tried to find something off the shelf to really handle a CRM or a POS, something really to manage our inventory, a number of different other things. And we couldn't really find anything that was suitable for what we were doing. And what we chose to do is build it ourselves. And again, going back to my partner's background, that was right within his crosshairs, and he went to work and putting together the software system. So it's fully customized. Really, all the mistakes we've made, we put it into the system to make sure that we would automate it and not do those mistakes again. And it really took off. I mean, fast forward now and kind of where we are today, that software system is really our moat, really what separates us from anybody else who would want to come into the business that we've created here. Without this system, you really can't do or execute at a high level like we do with the efficiency of the labor that we do. It's really the spine, and it's 15 years of customization, fully proprietary, that we completely own as well, and we update on a daily basis. But rewind back to 2011, we had our two principles as far as what we wanted to focus on. We had our technology now in place, and we were running our business. We picked our heads up in about 2016, 17, and we had a real business. We were doing millions of dollars of sales. We had a line out the door. We had a really heavy percentage of repeat customers, which I want to touch on a little bit later. We never spent $1 in marketing, not one, in outbound marketing. And we knew that we unlocked the code. We knew that we had something very, very special. And we knew that at that point in time, we were both ready to expand, both Eric and I. The business was in a place where it was replicable and expandable. The software was really kicking on all cylinders at that point in time. So we sat down and looked at each other and said, listen, let's expand. Let's open up some additional locations. And I have also a deep background in commercial real estate. I've been a part of nearly 1,000 transactions in New York City. And I looked at Eric, I said, we can do this ourselves. But then we really took another step back and researched our marketplace. And we couldn't find anything or anyone or any business similar to us nationwide. And we searched and we took a long time researching. So we chose the franchising route at that point in time in about 2017 because we really wanted to capture the first mover advantage we had. We created a new market. Again, there was nothing else out there like us. So the franchising route it was, and we realized after speaking to many people that that's a way that we can get coast to coast. That's a way that we can get into all markets in all states, suburban, urban, or otherwise. So we were all in on franchising at that moment. We did not want to have 2 or 3 stores on Long Island, even though that certainly would have been a good step. We wanted to have these stores nationwide. So we took another few years, even though we're pretty focused, laser focused on what we wanted to do with Paymore. We're pretty conservative by nature. So it took about 2 or 3 years interviewing all different third parties to help us out with the franchising route. We chose the best attorney in our mind at that point in time, the best accountants. We brought on our franchise development partner to help us bring in qualified candidates. And in 2020, after also building up our support staff and our corporate office with everyone that's been with us since 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, since day one of Paymore, in 2020, we were stamped and approved for franchising. And it's really been like a rocket ship since then.
So when you talked with all of these different people and consulted for so long about who to get into business in franchising with, tell me a little about that journey, because franchising is so different than trying to scale and grow a company-owned store into a chain. Where did you find your greatest help and influence in learning about the business model of franchising?
Sure. So a lot of the research was done internally by Eric and I. We're self-starters, but we started on the legal route. And I spent actually probably a couple of years researching franchise attorneys. And we found who we thought was the best nationwide. And then speaking to the people that he referred or guided to, or people that he worked with, we were able to pull out some further referrals and recommendations from those groups. So like I said, it took us 3+ years to get to that point, almost 4. So we were diligently going through that process on a daily basis.
All right, so let's do this. Let's take a quick break here. You've given us terrific foundation to help us understand the business model and where it is and how you arrived at the doorstep and the threshold of franchising. On the other side of a quick break, let's come back and talk about the current day and take a look into the next 1, 3, and 5 years ahead. We're talking today with Stephen Preuss, CEO and co-founder of Paymore Electronics. I'm Stan Friedman. This is Franchise Today. Don't go away.
Franchise Today will be right back. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Franchise Today is brought to you by FRM Solutions, offering the only CRM tool built exclusively for franchising that lets you have it your way. Whether you're a single brand needing professional tools across departments or a portfolio of brands needing franchise-specific CRM across the enterprise. Either way, FRM satisfies the needs of many with the power of one. That's right, one single instance of FRM is all it takes across departments or across brands. So if you've had it with inflexible, one-size-fits-all CRM, end your frustration today. FRM offers robust dashboarding, tailored reporting, and with open APIs, FRM pushes, pulls, and integrates with other databases, providing you with a single source of truth. Don't just take my word for it. Visit them at frmsolutions.com and order up a demo today. And the conversation continues today with Stephen Preuss, co-founder and CEO of Paymore Electronics. So what do you think is the reason that nobody's done this before? Like, how do you scratch your head and say, how can we be the first?
Well, we went through a long period of learning, and I think we were always looking for a new way to do things. Eric and I always consider ourselves kind of the new age retail and the new age franchisor. We're kind of the new age retail because we're combining kind of the more traditional route of brick and mortar, existing storefront franchise, but we're more so an e-commerce data and technology company. In fact, we consider ourselves more of a technology and data company. We just happen to sell electronics. So combining that with how we've approached the franchise scenario in general, and us being able to control it ourselves, we have no private equity behind us, no partners, nothing like that. I mean, we have a clear vision through kind of the 20 years of going through this that we've been able to separate ourselves and grow very quickly through kind of our new age retail mindset. We buy, sell, and trade electronics. We also offer recycling. That has been missing in the economy kind of trend of electronics. Our storefronts are just collection points, really. And 80% of our sales are actually through e-commerce, which is very different. Even though 100% of our inventory is collected through retail and people walking in our stores, we resell those 80% of the time through e-commerce. That allows us to really change the dynamic of what a traditional and almost kind of to an archaic sense of what retail was considered over the last several decades. Through our technology, we're able to execute that e-commerce at a high level, which allows us to have also different dynamics on the logistics of an actual store. Our hours are completely different. It's more of a quality of life type of franchise where we're open 10 to 7 Monday through Friday and a few hours on Saturday, enough to collect the product. But we're selling 24/7. Some of our busiest times are actually when we're closed. To a traditional retailer, you need the lights on to be making money, where our busiest times are Saturday night and Sunday when we're closed. So that is a little different dynamic and equation for how we expend our resources. We do our execution, if you will, with 3 to 4 people in a store. Our technology that we've put together is so efficient and manages most of the heavy lift of an everyday work process that we're averaging 3.5 employees for a store, where going back to some of the more traditional franchises, a lot of food. In fact, about 65% of our franchisees are from food, have either exited completely or have diverted some of their allocation towards Paymore stores. They have 15, 20, 25 employees, heavy labor, heavy liability, heavy insurance. So we've really put together a different cycle, and we found it to be much needed in our markets. Everywhere we put one of our stores, we typically become the highest secondhand store in that market. And that's all secondhand stores. That could be pawn shops or some of the other trading stores with some of the different service lines that are out there right now. Almost 90% of the time when somebody comes in our store, they're doing a deal. They're executing a trade. 70% of the time they return. And that's something that we're very, very proud of. As I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast with you, Stan, the secondhand industry as a whole is not a pleasant one. It's not something that's fully acceptable. And the average repeat customer rate for a secondhand store, pawn shop or other, which means that somebody coming in using their service and actually coming back, is under 8%. It's paltry. As I just mentioned, our repeat customer rate is almost 10x that, in the 70%. That's unheard of for a secondhand store. And what we attribute that to is us recognizing that many years ago and then putting that in the forefront with a lot of simplistic things. Obviously, there's more complex ideas behind it through our technology, which has been by far our biggest investment, but a lot of simplistic things, making a clean store, having educated people in front, giving a fair deal, putting them in better shopping centers, almost like a pre-owned Apple Store feel on where we put these stores, having friendly co-tenancy and not having an overly packed store with items sitting on top of themselves, and getting them out quickly. An average secondhand transaction takes 40 to 50 minutes. Through our technology, we have our customers in and out within 5 to 7 minutes. We really wanted to disrupt that secondhand industry where a soccer mom could come into one of our stores with a bunch of kids and a bag full of electronics, get a fair deal, maybe trade in a few things and pick up a couple gently used items for her kids and walk out of there feeling good about it, telling her friends about it, and giving that customer a pleasant transaction and execution. So those are some of the simple things that we've really concentrated on and compounded with a lot of the complexities with our technology and our data collection, and the execution on those materials has really changed the way people have experienced through our Paymore stores, the secondhand experience. And we're getting closer to critical mass. We've had that type of experience with every one of our stores and every one of our markets, from New York City to kind of suburban North Carolina, to Texas, to California, to Seattle. And we've gotten the same feedback. So we're on really a mission of mass education to the public to tell them that we've solved all of their problems. The buying, selling, trading of electronics, the wiping of their sensitive data, which we do on the spot for them to make sure that they have all their sensitive materials and data wiped with full privacy. If there isn't a value to give them a monetization of their product, we're also recycling drop-off points as well, so we can recycle it for them safely and responsibly. And we can donate if they bring in and for some reason they don't want the money there, we can certainly donate it or send it to somebody that they want to send the money to. So we've really figured out all the solutions for anything that the secondhand industry can really pose somebody.
When people want to come in and bring in a battery or something they can't dispose of without, taking it to a county dump, is there a fee for that when they bring those to you?
No, we recycle everything for them for free. There's no fee.
And then the retail aspect, as I understand it, then is just a point of collection. So you're selling all this merchandise without a restricted territory. Your franchisees are just retail for the purposes of receiving the electronics. And then what is it you do? You have like an Amazon or an online store?
Yeah, so we have our online avenues and stores. We have paymore.shop.com. That is really like our answer to Amazon, where it's a marketplace where we're reselling these products. We have a number of different other avenues to resell these as well. We have a back-end market that we sell to wholesalers. We ship anywhere, yes, in the US. A lot of our products actually go overseas as well. So that is where a lot of that 80% e-commerce flows to. We also have a retail component in the store as well. That's the other 20% of our sales. So customers can come in there and shop in person if they want to pick it up that day, or if they don't want to order it online, or if they want to execute a number of transactions where they're selling a product, maybe putting a couple dollars off the table and cash in the pocket, and then also purchasing some of the clean, newer product that we have in the stores as well.
How many units are we at right now, open and operating, and how many are in development?
Yeah, so in 2020, we started with our one location, corporate location, which is still our only corporate location in Massapequa. Today, we are at 52 stores open. We have 368 stores that have signed on that will be opening over the next 4 to 5 years. We also have another 120 stores that have signed on for Canada. We also have another 60 stores that have signed on for the UK, which includes England, Scotland, and Ireland. So you put that all together, and we're right about 548 stores that are in development over the next 5 years. So when I mentioned that it's been a roller coaster over the last 4 years, it certainly has been.
That's a pretty scary number to me, actually. I don't know how long, well, with your background in real estate, I don't know how long it takes to find a site, lease it, and get a store up and running. That's a big number of sold and not open. That's a big, big number.
Yeah, I think most of that, if you're a heavy lift franchise like food or automotive, that would be very daunting. But going kind of back to my statement before, us being a new age franchise, we have no capital equipment in our stores. We have no heavy permitting. We don't need to reach out to 17, 18, 19, 30, whatever it is, vendors or links in the chain to get these stores open. Our entire store is modular. Most of it is cabinetry up in the front, which is about 30% of the store. The warehousing or storage and listing and shipping area is most of the store. That's 70% in the back. And most of that is just really shelving and computers and things like that. So we've gotten these stores down now to getting open between 2 to 3 months. We've gotten the cost down dramatically since it's all modular. So the franchisees are able to scale quicker. They're able to start making money in 3 to 4 months, as opposed to some of these traditional franchises where it takes a year or a year and a half, Department of Health and all different types of permitting. Our landlords love it because they're getting their rent in 3 to 4 months with lighter TI packages. And our system is all web-based through our technology initiatives. So you put all of that together, and then you look at our real estate, we're population driven. So if there's population, there's electronics. If there's electronics, it could be a successful store. So as opposed to probably most of the franchisors you speak to, want to be in that AAA location next to a Chipotle or an Apple store paying God knows how much in rent. We are population driven, as I mentioned, and we don't really look at vehicular traffic, right? And some of the population is even greater outside of that main corner. So we're able, and not only able to, but we thrive in B centers. So with our fast build out, with kind of the lack of any real construction or capital equipment, going into these B centers, being able to have more leverage with the landlords that we speak to, and also, by the way, paying 30 to 60% less rent than those AAA centers, we've been able to now open, as I mentioned, those 52 stores. But we have another 76 that are getting built out currently that'll be open over the next several months. So we'll probably double in size because of those characteristics first quarter of next year, and probably triple in size to about 150 at some point to mid to later next year.
What's your crystal ball tell you about the economy and where we're heading? And what's your prognostication for both the industry as well as the brand within franchising over the next 3 to 5 years? What are you seeing?
Great questions. So we're real bullish on what we're doing here. And times are good, people are trading up. When times are bad, we're recession resistant. People are looking for cash. So we see kind of sunny days either side of the pendulum. I think going back to what I mentioned before, I mean, we're on an education mission at this point in time to get these stores open and let the public know in a big way that there is a safe, reliable, and fair place that's regimented and franchised and time proven, that holds to a different quality of standards in this industry, that can solve their problem for that IT closet or that drawer of electronics that's been sitting there. We can monetize it, make it safe instead of going to a dark alley or trading on one of these platforms that you're sending it in and not knowing who you're sending it to with your information on those said electronics. We realize we're not going to be a franchise that's going to have 10,000 units in the US. We're pretty conservative and spread out on how we place these stores. But I think that will end up being a 1,500 unit franchise in the US. Obviously, the international markets would add on to that, but just in the US alone, I think getting to that level of not only awarding those 1,500 units, I think that at the rate that we're doing it, within the next 5 years, we should be kind of spoken for territories. And then it's really just kind of building it out from there. But we see a real need for this going forward. And we've been embraced by the local communities as well. Once they understand that we're not a secondhand store, once they understand the benefits, there's the socioeconomic benefit that these local communities get because we're giving cash on the spot to the local residents of where these stores are put. So we could be putting those 6 and 7 figures back into the community, not sending that to other parts of the country or the world where we're taking the products and moving them around, where we're really driving, again, that socioeconomic benefit to the local communities, which again drives that cash to be put back into those communities. So I think from every way you look at it, from the green angle to the local benefit to solving those pre-owned electronic needs, we're extremely bullish on the next 3 to 5 years for Paymore stores.
My guess is you've probably become a magnet for private equity. Have we been hearing from a lot of people in that department?
Yeah, we've been getting calls, but I think at this point in time, we're not looking to go that route. We don't need to go that route. We've reached our kind of first level of inflection on the corporate level here, and we're in expansion mode. I think at the end of the day, with what we do and how unique it is at being one of one, Eric and I are probably looking for more strategic partnerships over the next 3 or 5 years where we can work with a company that benefits both us and them and really push the mission forward to be able to solve more issues and problems and green angle in the electronic space. So more strategic partnerships than anything.
How about some contact info so those who have listened and learned may want to learn more?
Sounds great. So you can reach us at www.paymore.com and our social media handles at Paymore Stores.
Well, this time has kind of blown by, and I've enjoyed getting to learn about this concept. And you've got one here, I think, in Doraville. I'm going to just take a ride by in the next week to go see what it looks like.
Absolutely. It's a great store, great ownership. They currently opened another store as well in Beaufort, Georgia. So not too far from you.
Stephen, thanks for joining us today. We've been talking with Stephen Preuss, CEO, co-founder of Paymore Electronics. Thanks so much, Stephen. Appreciate talking to you.
Thanks, Stan. It's been fun.
Well, that's a wrap for today. Next week, we'll be taking a break for the holiday, as I wish you and yours a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. We certainly have a lot to be thankful for here at Franchise Today, and again, I'm as proud as I can be to welcome Profit Keeper by PrimePay to our sponsorship family. Remember to subscribe to Franchise Today wherever you chase podcasts, and I'll see you right back here on Wednesday, December 4th. Until then, I'm Stan Friedman, wishing you the best, the very best of all things franchising, and Franchise Today is out.
Franchise Today is a production of FRM Solutions, providing best-in-class CRM tools to empower relationships with prospective and existing franchisees. Find them online at frmsolutions.com. Join Stan every Wednesday at noon Eastern for another episode of Franchise Today.
When it's PCS time, you know the drill. Pack, research the new base, get the kids in school, because family supports family. At American Public University, we support military families with flexible, affordable online education that moves with you. As a military spouse, your tuition rate is the same as your partner's, just $250 per credit hour. American Public University, education that moves with you. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.